So unless you've been living under a rock, I think most people understand that there is a lot of hype and interest around a Nintendo Direct of some kind airing soonish, we think. It's been talked about for a while. This, I think, comes down to the fact that it's been quite a while since the last full Direct. It was September, and people are even pointing out that this is like one of the longest stretches between bigger Directs. It's like, 150-something days? People are counting, yes. It's on Reddit, Reset Era, GameFAQs, basically any of the forums, people are pointing that out. It's been a while. So, of course, we're at a fever pitch now for a Direct or any information, and this morning people started messaging me on Twitter, email, everything, tons of messages, because a person who is more credible, right? There's more credibility than a lot of places. For example, tons of Nintendo Direct dates have been put on forums like Reddit even, and 4chan and other places under anonymous tags. And we don't ever talk about them because, okay, I guess, anyone can do that, and that's fine, and that's kind of why we don't really talk about them when we move on. But on Reset Era, King Zell, who has been very good when it comes to information that is correct and even questioning information that they receive that they're unsure of if it is correct. For example, at one point, they talked about the Nintendo 64 Classic being revealed before the end of the year. I think they talked about in December, but they questioned that from their sources. They said, I don't think that makes any sense. I don't know why Nintendo would do that. And it turned out that it's not the case. So they kind of at least are able to tell if they're not 100% sure with a source. So here we are now where King Zell is talking about a Direct of some kind in their Nintendo Direct speculation thread that blows up to probably more posts than it ever should because nothing's really happening. But of course, they like to discuss it, and I think discussing these kind of things are fun as well. So I at least understand the idea of the thread getting a lot of traction, especially now that King Zell posted 13 is your lucky number and am out. Okay, so people are now taking this to mean that this would be February 13th as an example, which is next week. That's a Wednesday. It throws a little bit of, throws some people off because it's not a Thursday. And a lot of us kind of pinpoint Directs on Thursdays, but of course they can just do it whenever they want. It's basically a pre-recorded video that they put up in a live stream, and then it goes up in separate trailers, or they'll even just post the whole thing after that's done. So that would mean that it'll be next Wednesday, the day before Valentine's Day, or what this could also mean is it's not for another 13 days, which would actually put it on a Thursday on the 21st. I am leaning more towards it would be the 13th, unless they really are counting the days. I just want to give you both sides of the coin as to what it could be, because now everyone is taking it as it's the 13th, it's next week. There is that possibility that it's the 21st and it's 13 days from now. Just putting that out there. Now, I do also want to point out that King Zell was one of the people that was mentioning that they didn't think there would be a January Direct. A lot of people, obviously, I thought it would be there as well as Nate was on the podcast talking about it. A lot of us assumed that based on the track record, they would have a January Direct of some kind, but they did not. So I also want to point out that King Zell was correct about that as well. And then Zell went on to talk a bit more about some games. And this is very interesting because I guess I can't really point out which ones, but they're correct about some of these games. So there you go. More backing to that. I'm not going to point out which ones, but some of the games I've heard of, yes. So let's just take a look at them. I'm not going to point out which ones, but some of them make sense. One of them doesn't make much sense, but hey, there you go. They said there are a bunch of announcements coming this year, but am not sure when, so they don't know the release date or window or anything. I mean, I don't know why any of us would really know the release date for these unless there was a really bad leak. Maybe like a leak on a retailer, but we talked about that before, and we weren't even sure about some of those dates, so who really knows there? Pikmin 3, yes, that would be a Wii U port from Nintendo. It wouldn't make a lot of sense because Pikmin 4 is what a lot of people obviously want, but it's Nintendo. What are you going to do? It's, you know what? It's so crazy that I wouldn't put it past them. So Pikmin 3, there you go. Maker 2, that is referring to Super Mario Maker 2, the sequel. We have talked about a Super Mario Maker sequel for about a year now on the Spawncast. We have talked about it quite a bit for a couple reasons. One, people might not see it as like a big bombshell announcement game, right? I get it. It's not Breath of the Wild, right? It's not Mario Odyssey. It's not a killer Star Fox game. It's not Metroid Prime 4, but Super Mario Maker has an appeal that none of the other games have, and that is more of a social media presence than anything else. So when Super Mario Maker 1 came out, it took over Twitch. It took over YouTube. But there was an issue that Nintendo's actually fixed now that I think they might have fixed because of Super Mario Maker 2 coming, and they realized what was happening. I've thought about this more. This might be why they changed their view, we'll say, on people using their IPs in videos, whereas normally they would claim it no matter what if it was gameplay. But maybe not as much now, and that might be because Super Mario Maker 2 is on the way, because think about it this way. Super Mario Maker 1 took over Twitch. It was #1 on Twitch. It got millions and millions of views for some people's channels on YouTube, but Nintendo would claim them. People were like, I mean, I don't really feel like having my stuff claimed. You know, I put a lot of work into this video or whatnot, and they didn't feel like doing as much. Nintendo is probably leaning into that because of the eyeballs that you get on something like that when it releases. When Mario Maker 2 releases, which, let's be honest, it's likely, right? The first one was too popular, just leave it and never bring it up to something like the Switch. So when that does get revealed, whenever that is, that will probably, and it releases, that will probably jump to the top of Twitch. Like, you're going to see a lot of YouTube channels do it. I mean, we'll play it here, you know, because it's fun. I know Bob keeps asking for it from the Wolf Den. So yeah, Nintendo, you should release that because Bob, he's going a little crazy over there on Mario Maker 2. Yeah, that's like the one reason he leaves his Wii U hooked up is for Mario Maker, and you got to feel bad for him. He's got to keep a slot open for the Wii U on his entertainment center. Box Boy. And then you talk about, of course, the 2D Zelda and Pokemon. Yeah, okay, we've talked about the 2D Zelda game as well quite a bit. It does look like there is a 2D Zelda game that's going to be brought out later on this year. We've heard about it a lot. We've talked about it a lot as rumor, and I wouldn't be surprised that Nintendo wants that Zelda game every single year. Makes sense. And honestly, I would prefer a 2D top-down style Zelda game that's more traditional, and then save the Breath of the Wild style for, like, its own series, basically. You know, keep making Breath of the Wild games. People like them. That's fine. Build on that open world, but keep the traditional 2D Zelda there, because we don't have a 3DS 2D traditional Zelda anymore, since obviously they're moving on from that. So if they can do, like, a Link Between Worlds style game on the 3DS, I would really like that. I think it would be awesome. And, of course, Pokemon. Makes sense. He also talks about Metroid Prime Trilogy probably being at the Direct. They seem a little more unsure about that one. I'll admit that. But Metroid Prime Trilogy, that's like one of the worst kept secrets. Now everyone's talking about Metroid Prime Trilogy, and I've wondered a lot if Metroid Prime 4's rocky development had anything to do with that not being revealed sooner. But at this point, we've had the Bayonetta collection for more than a year outside of whenever Bayonetta 3 is going to be released. So I don't think it's an issue to put out the Metroid Prime Trilogy now. And I mean, those are 3 decently linked, you know, decent sized games that people would really get into. And it would be great for some people who have never played a Metroid Prime game. Because remember, they left that on the Wii, and some people were too young when the Wii came out even now. So yeah, I say bring that over as soon as you can. I hope that's something that really does come out earlier this year than later, because I would like to get my hands on a Metroid Prime Trilogy for the Switch. So the big ones to look at here, a Super Mario Maker 2, a 2D Zelda, and of course Pokemon. I don't think Pokemon will be in the Direct. That'll be in its own Direct, probably just ahead of E3, because E3, I'm sure they want to show off as much as they can. I would say Pokemon will probably be revealed in its own Direct format, probably in probably May, mid to late May, I would say, just ahead of E3, essentially, just to get that out there. And then something like 2D Zelda will probably finish up the Direct, unless that Star Fox game from Retro Studios is done and ready. Now, Zell talked about how they have not heard about that since last year, and that could mean that it finished up around that time, or it started to wrap around that time, or it really did get canceled, and Eurogamer told us about something that was basically on its way out, and not in a good way. Not on its way out the door to release, on its way out the door to cancel. And I hope that's not the case, because that means that Retro has really been wasting a lot of time, and now they're finally going to work on something with Metroid Prime 4. I would like to think they've been spending a lot of time now actually working on a game that we're going to get to play, because they at least have good quality. But one of the things about Retro is we see them as good quality, but we don't really ever see the stuff that they do that gets canceled. So we only ever see the best stuff that they can create come out of that studio. So who really knows exactly how talented they are and how much they really just try things, and sometimes it works out and we get it. I think the biggest thing that they are known for is that they can optimize a game well. Metroid Prime, for example, the way it looks on the GameCube and runs, no business looking and running that way on the GameCube, but it did. So I guess you could say even Metroid Prime 3 on the Wii, same deal. They get a lot out of the machines that they're given. So a direct possibly this week coming up. I know it's the same thing. You're going to see this kicked around a lot, and that's why I wanted to go over it, because it's going to get thrown around a lot, and people should really be able to see where it's coming from. So links to these posts are down below. You can read them for yourself and check them out. You can look through the thread if you'd like to see more as things happen, because I have a feeling more and more people are going to chime in and talk about what's happening here. So I guess keep your eyes open for that. And we'll, of course, talk a bit more about this on the Spawncast tomorrow. This is just to get you up to speed. Thanks, guys, for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do hit the like button. It does help out. If not, hit the dislike. And I'll see you guys next time.